Good morning, garden friends. Today we're going to be actually working in the inside the greenhouse. So come along with me. Now, I just want to share with you, don't worry, because we're about to crank up the humidity and turn it into a plant spa. In this video, I'm going to share with you some budget-friendly ways to increase moisture, share with you some of the best drama-loving plants that soak it up, and why a little extra humidity means faster growth, happier leaves, and a way to be free of pests. Because as I'm doing research, because this is something new, I am working in a greenhouse, is that you also have to have not only the right temperature, but the right humidity. And humidity should be between 50 to 70% for what I am growing. But then I believe it's a little bit higher for tropical plants. But I'd like to do is share with you guys some of the things that I'm going to be doing, some friendly, low cost techniques to help increase the humidity in your greenhouse so that the plants are healthy, especially when you are doing seedlings, that there is benefit to having the humidity properly where it should be at. So along inside with me, I'll show you some of the things that I'm going to be doing, but what I'm also working on to increase the humidity in the greenhouse is tied to a project that I'm working on that will be done next year. So it's just going to take that long for that project to get finished. So come along with me. Now, the other thing that I'm going to be entertaining is also putting up curtains on the front two windows up at the top, because once that sun gets over these trees, it will be blasting the greenhouse. And while I want to make sure I have the right humidity, I don't want the sun to be possibly scorching any of the plants that I have in there. So that's something that I'm going to be putting up in the greenhouse to sort of like diffuse some of that direct sunlight that will be coming in. So as I stated, having a greenhouse is something new for me. So I just want to make sure that I am doing everything I possibly can to make sure anything that I am growing, whether from seedlings or cuttings, end up having the right environment to be successful. Now, as I stated, this is new to me, so I end up doing a little bit of research in regards to what needs to be done to have a successful house for your plants to, be lush and green and healthy. So there are 8 points that I want to be able to stress in regards to, how to increase the and balance the humidity inside my greenhouse. So first thing, mist system or a spray bottle. Well, because we do not have water tied into here, the mist system isn't contagious for us. By utilizing a spray bottle, which for some of the plants that I'm going to have in here, and then especially with me doing my seedlings with that tube technique, misting is going to be beneficial for helping balance out the humidity. And then secondly, to install a humidifier, and that's strictly for the winter months, because we are going to have heat in here for the cooler days, if we end up having freezing, but it's not like electric heat or anything like that. We're going to be a little creative in regards to how we burn heat just to keep it above freezing. And then add water to trays or pebble trays, because as the water evaporates, it gently raises the ambient humidity. And I have a couple plants, and there's a couple things or techniques that I'm going to be doing, which is part of this propagation system. But it is also tied into my project that I'm going to be working on for May of next year. Grow plants together. I don't have a lot of plants in here, but one of the things that I am going to be doing is getting plants that can tolerate or do well. Let me say that, do well in like a geranium or a, what do they call those? Rats. What is that? Tropical plants. To have some of those in here, so that because they will be close together, that in itself, the moisture will help elevate the humidity. Number 5, use damp mulch or moistened floor, or wet gravel, bark, or mulch, because as the water evaporates, that too helps create moisture. Now, the fact that we have a wood floor, I wouldn't have a problem with, if I'm cleaning the floor, hosing it down, because we have the gaps in the floor, which it'll drain. And then the hope would be, as the heat from underneath ends up causing additional moisture to rise up to help with the humidity in the greenhouse. The next is grow raised beds or soil trenches, because they seem to hold water than like containers, whether they're hanging baskets, or if I end up putting in some of my tropical houseplants that I have. And then the shade cloth. Like I had mentioned earlier, these 2 windows will be where I'm going to put some semi-sheer curtains up to help filter that direct sun, because when the sun comes over on this end, it is hot. And that way, even with some of the leaves, it won't end up, getting them all crispy and whatever. So it'll act as a filter. And then secondly is to have a monitor with a hydrometer. And the ideal is to keep the humidity between 50 to 70 for most of your greenhouse plants, but then for the tropical, keep them between 70 to 90. So those are a couple key things that I'm going to take away for ensuring that my greenhouse is off to a good start. Now, the other thing that I'm doing, I got a couple pots of ferns, which I'm going to use the clay, because while clay absorbs the water, it will also help create additional moisture, which in turn will help elevate the humidity in the greenhouse. But like I said, because of a project that I'm going to be working on for next year, I'm going to be using these wall hanging propagation stations. And they are so cute, because I started with some clippings. I have some that have already rooted, but I'm going to just leave them in there and bring them out here so that they can get larger. And what's so neat about this is, and what I'm going to do is, actually, because I have 2 hanging from here on, oops, so you guys can see, because Kevin ended up getting my shelves up, I'm going to hang 2 from these 2 windows. And part of the reason that I'm going to be hanging them from these windows is, as I stated, the longest period of time that the sun comes through is from this direction. And figure with the curtains here, the sheer curtains here, and you sort of have the protection of the shelf from the sun coming in from the top, not beating down on the glass vials which house the water in them. So I got 6 of these little vials. They hang, fill them up with, you can use tap water. Just make sure that you let it sit out for, 12 to 24 hours. Because the chlorine that's in our drinking water, let that dissipate, or you can use spring water. I am choosing to use spring water just for that reason of not introducing any type of chemicals in it. So, in order for me to fill these up, I did pick some plants up that I am going to use. Now, I don't know what, oh yeah it is. Okay, so this is a Belgian waffle plant, and it is ideal for terrariums. So it looks like I got about about 4 plants in here. So I'm gonna use them to propagate or keep the roots growing and allow the plant to also grow. And then I don't know what this is. I lost the tag for it, but I'll look it up because I know it's in the house. This here looks like we got 1, 2, 3 individual plants that I will be able, to also put in here. And then I have some philodendrons. Those were the ones that I had initially started, this process off. So I'm going to go ahead, get those guys hooked up and filled up the containers. And all you got to do is I got the screw hooks that I'm going to put in there. I got some other plants that I'm going to be bringing out here that will help encourage the humidity level to increase. So the first thing that I'm going to need to do is remove all the soil off of these plants and get my water filled up in the tubulars and just allow those guys to continue to grow their roots. So let me go ahead and, like I said, get the dirt off of these and then get the hooks set up so then that way I can hang these in here and have them start to do what they need to do. Right, so I got them all cleaned off so that I would be able to put them into the distilled water so that the roots can continue to grow. And like I said, this is tied to a project that I'm going to be working on for next year. So I'll turn the camera around, but I end up having some extra bottles. And all I'm doing is making sure that the root is completely submerged into the water. And then every 5 days, I will come out here and change the water so that these guys stay nice and healthy. But let me go ahead and get the rest of these guys planted in the water so it's not too much of a shock for them. One of the, that one's a little fat. Maybe I'll put this one in here since it has a wider mouth. Yeah, there we go. One of the leaves off. Make sure it's completely, the roots are completely submerged. And then I'll put the other ones up in the geranium here. They can all end up continuing to grow while it's also providing moisture in the greenhouse. Now, Kevin ended up breaking one of the glasses So I gotta wait until my replacement get here. But then I also had some other ones that I'll show you that I have put up in the on the top of the shelves of the greenhouse. So let me go ahead and get the rest of these guys in the water, and then I'll show you how it ends up looking. I'm really excited about this. I mean, this is gonna, assist in providing humidity into the greenhouse, I hope. But based off of everything that I've read, this should assist in that. So let me go ahead and get the rest of these in the vials, and then I will show you what it looks like. Okay, so I think this is going to end up doing really, really well in here. And like I said, I put some up on the top. I got a couple more plants that I'm going to be doing, this technique in here to help with bringing moisture to create more humidity in here. A couple other things that I'm going to be doing in here is silver falls. I'm going to be trimming those down because one of the things that I noticed from last year when I left them in my window boxes, that they ended up surviving. So I'm going to end up clipping off some of the ones that are long and putting those in soil to see if I can propagate those for next season. And that's the thing. I'm trying things out to see how they end up working in the greenhouse. So I said I'm going to go and get some more plants to put in here, bring some that I have in the house out here to start creating that environment for all of these plants to end up being successful. Okay, guys, so as I stated, was going to be putting some curtains up in the greenhouse to help diffuse some of that direct sun that comes into the greenhouse. So I actually had to go a little further than that because I ended up finding out that some of the hanging plants that I had by the first small windows was getting a little crispy. It's like about 1 o'clock now, and as you can see, that sun is directly on the roof, but we had no choice but to get a sun protecting shade to put on the west side facing of the roof because the heat was so intense in the greenhouse. It was just unbearable for my plants. So let's go in and I'll show you some of the things that I've gotten and put in here. And then the other thing we did to help keep with the airflow, we got the magnetic screens so that I can keep these guys open while the fans are running. So come on in. Okay, so the beauty of having the sunshade that we've put up here is that heat, as bright as that sun was outside, is not in here. I did end up finding some cute little sheer curtains to put up here, but like I said, my two plants, especially my little lipstick plant, it was getting crispy over there, and I am noticing with the curtains it is diffusing a lot of that direct sun. Now, as I stated, the project that I am working on for next year, my little propagation units are doing really well. They seem to like it here. I usually come out every 2 days to change the water or fill it up, whichever uh, is showing that it needs to have them filled, because I want the roots completely covered. And then I have a couple of them down here that I am allowing them to propagate. But it was definitely a game changer by putting the shade up in here, because like I said, it is actually keeping everything nice. I have my spider plants that I'm growing, but that's also tied to my project. And then I also have some clippings up there that are doing amazing. And this was a rescue. This spider plant was a rescue that I was able to get 5 plants out of this. Now, reading the temperature in here is 96 degrees, and the humidity is only 47. So I'm kind of hoping that with some of my combination of my plants, my Japanese evergreen, my palm, and also my ZZ plant, and then some of the other ones that I have here that don't like a lot of heat or direct sun, like my sedums, my Persian shield, and then the croton is doing well here, but it can handle the heat. But I'm really happy with how the greenhouse has turned out. Right now I'm not going to be doing any type of planting because it's just way too hot. But I think I have it set up to where this will end up working out nicely for me for my seedlings that I'm going to be doing in here.